Okay, it is December 10th, 2025 at 12:05 p.m. This is the meeting of the Bloomington Urban Enterprise Association.
Is there anyone on but cats? Just cats?
It's just cats
Okay.
right now. Okay, we'll see if Alyssa jumps on back.
We're good, Steve, and we can start with a roll call.
Sure do.
Right. Brad, why don't you lead us off? Roll call.
Brad Whistler here.
Holly Warren, Economic and Sustainable Development. Dee Del Rosa, ESD. Mary Morgan, board member.
Heather Robinson, board member.
Michael Hover, board member.
Jane Cooper Smith, board member. Virginia Gatheri, board member.
All right, welcome everyone. It's. All right, Dee, I know we have, it doesn't look like a lot of items, but we have some big discussions in today's agenda, including our budget, which I know we will get to after we have a couple of other things, but minutes are first on the list. And are there any comments, questions, corrections to the November minutes? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to.
Move to approve the November 2025 BUA board meeting minutes.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah. Motion carries, thank you. All right, Dee, it looks like we have some unfinished business. You want to talk about that?
Yes, our unfinished business is the historic facade grant for First Christian Church. The last meeting we discussed our scoring rubric and kind of the bounds in which we have decided to evaluate grants as they come to us. As First Christian Church is just outside of the geographical boundaries of the BUEA, but provides a lot of services for the area and for BUEA residents. We're taking this into consideration for a $40,000 request for masonry work on First Christian Church. We've kind of seen this a couple times, so I don't know how far you want me to go through the grant application. But I hope everybody's reviewed it and open to discussion.
Well, I think one of the pieces, if I can just recall from our last meeting, when we. And Alex was great, she provided some clarity for us and how the bylaws are written, and I think we've had. As a board, questions around, can we fund things that are outside of the boundaries of BUEA, and we've kind of been back and forth a little bit on that, and last year we had a couple of situations where we said no, this request is outside of the zone, and based on how we were interpreting the bylaws, we would not. But with this kind of an interpretation, legal guidance and interpretation of the bylaws, what we determined that there were 3 specific areas that we could consider that would be, if we're outside of the zone area, does the request aid employment of zone residents? Does it improve the physical environment? Or does it encourage retention, turnover of capital in the zone, even if it's outside of the zone? And the conversation and why we asked you to bring back the request today from the church is that we said, you know what, we think that this just being outside of the zone, but does fit into this criteria, that we could say that this long-standing institution is a benefit to the zone based on this, and therefore that rubric, which Steve put together, is very helpful, and I think that will aid us moving forward and will create clarity. So that's just kind of a little bit of the background from last month, and so I will kind of leave it there and for others to comment.
I would support this grant. They're a great partner in addressing some of the needs of the unhoused folks downtown. And because they are just basically abutting the UEA borders, I think this is a really reasonable request, and yeah, fully support it.
Other thoughts or comments or
I agree.
anything?
My only comment, and I'm sorry, I missed the last meeting, so I hope I'm not being redundant, but my concern is just that we're consistent in the way that we're applying this and we're being clear and transparent to the public about it. So if in fact we're adopting this new guidance as our official policy, and that is clear on the website to anyone who's gonna apply, and that those conditions are consistent, then I don't have any objection to it. My problem all along was that
It's
we say no to some people because they're outside, and now we can say yes to somebody who is. I just want us to be consistent and so anyway, so is there any kind of update about how we're presenting that on the application?
There's no, official, and I'm happy to do this, and this is something I think that all of the, now that we do have a scoring rubric, that's something that we do need to let people know. It's like, hey, this is how we base how we decide that you're going to get a grant or not. So that will be incorporated with all of that, and all of the grants do need to be updated in general.
Could we add just a paragraph or something to the DVA page, which I know is really popular, but. The statement about eligibility criteria, that is a quote of Alex's.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's what I'm looking for, because if you go to the application page on the website right now, it says available to
Only zone,
yes.
in the zone, and if I were outside the zone, I would just I would walk away.
Right.
Okay, absolutely.
This might be something for another time. I don't think it's directly related to their request. But I think that, let's say, for instance, they did have some type of emergency need because they do serve a lot of unhoused. Would there be anywhere in the grant where if they were just on the border of the zone, that it would be okay that the board could make a determination that it would be an emergency, or would that be muddying the waters too much? Because I mean, I think there are times when, you know, that could be a consideration also, but I don't know. But consistency is important, so I don't know, it's just.
You're saying there would be a time pressure factor as well as the location.
Possibly a time pressure factor, or maybe they're providing some unusual service that actually is going to be extremely beneficial to a lot of people who were in the zone. And I mean, that can happen, especially now in this economy, in our environment, just in people's, just in the world itself, and I can see those types of things potentially coming up, but if we're.
It makes me nervous as
Yeah.
from a management perspective, just
Okay.
that like if it's not exactly within our guidelines.
Yeah.
Like I think we retain a lot of flexibility and have the how about like what people can do with the funding, even within our specific grant programs, but. If we're making exceptions for specific organizations, I feel like that could really get us in trouble,
Okay.
on a number of levels, so I wonder if there are other ways we could address
Okay, I appreciate
that,
that.
that would fall within our rule set, so maybe Dee can noodle on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
But that's maybe responsiveness, you want them to be able to be responsive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I agree, it's hard, because people can start talking and then, you know, I had an emergency too, and we served this many people, and so it could get, so. At the end of the day, you know, following the rules is what you have to do. I mean, I make my students do it, you know, I mean, they have all kinds of crazy things, so listen, yeah. All the record, we can talk about it another time over there. You know, you gotta be consistent, so I get it.
Well, I think that Brad makes a really good point, Dean. It sounds like you've already kind of got that on your radar, making sure as we get into 2026 and these, you know, online portal is consistent with the updates that and the clarity that Alex provided for us and these 3 criteria along with that rubric, so that it will, for those that would like to apply, they'll have an understanding of how these decisions are made. I think Transparency is always the path.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it is time for some of the. I mean, every year I am trying to improve upon the grant programming that we're doing and trying to make it more clear. And trying to learn from the mistakes that, maybe could come about or things that were unclear before in the application process, because it makes my job easier when it's like, oh, this can just go straight to the board, this is fine. And not that I don't love speaking to the people, because I do, it's fun talking to people about their projects, but sometimes I realize, oh, that should have just been in the grant guidelines. So yeah, so I appreciate that, and yeah, there will be some updates on that, sure.
Good to know. Are there any other comments, questions, thoughts about this? Mary, I think you essentially made proposed approving this. So I don't know if is that,
You want a motion?
you want to?
Sure,
That's the word I was looking for.
Move to approve, is there a?
Historic facade.
Move to approve the historic facade grant for First Christian Church.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Yay.
Yeah,
Okay.
all righty, good deal. So we are, go back to okay, it's time for the budget, yay, it's my favorite things, I love budgets.
Yes, do you, let's talk about when we get to that part in the budget.
Okay, for this year's grant, so for the.
Oh, that's right, this year's grant, I'm so sorry.
Oh, do we have?
Yeah, so I forgot that, Holly needs to talk about this year's grants before we talk about the 2026 grants, so.
Yeah.
Holly's.
Yeah, thanks, and this will just take a couple minutes, and this should be in your packet, so this is for spending the rest of the Arts Commission Arts Grants Fund. So every year the BUEA allocates $50,000 and trusts the Bloomington Arts Commission to do a rigorous review process for two grant categories each year to allocate that money, but then we always come back to you to make a recommendation and get them approved before we send those MOUs and money out. So our first grant cycle of the year was our Zone Arts Project Grant Cycle. So this is for organizations, artists, arts groups working within Bloomington to create really public-facing programming for our community. As part of that cycle earlier this year, the BUEA allocated $27,983. Thank you very much. For this current operations grant cycle, I'm proposing that the BUA allocate $23,500 in arts and grants to 501(c)(3)s who have arts focused missions. And the way we judge these grants is they're available for any arts focused 501(c)(3) whose annual operating budget is $500,000 or less. We can award them up to $5,000. When we are reviewing these applications, we review them for organizational capacity. We make sure that they have what it takes to get the work they tell us they're doing done, and community impact. Again, we always want to award the groups that are doing enough for as much for our community as possible. And again, we're looking for folks who facilitate involvement in arts and cultural activity, provide an opportunity for folks in our community to participate in the creative process, advance the quality of arts and the availability of arts in the zone specifically for your product money, and then just celebrate and enhance the identity of the zone. So again, we are recommending an allocation of $23,500 for this cycle, and I've included in this packet a list of everyone. I'm happy to go through those. I know sometimes when we're trying to save money, y'all can just tell me what you think, ask me questions about that. I do want to point out though, with that $23,500 allocation, I'm a little over my $50,000 budget. There's an additional $1,483, and I'm proposing that we pull that additional $1,400 and change from the $15,000 discretionary spending on city-led arts initiatives lines in our arts and culture budget. That's what I'm proposing we pull that additional funds for, because we haven't spent any of it yet. So I'll stop there and let you ask me any questions you have.
So the BUEA amount would be
overall, if you approve this entire thing, the overall amount would be $51,483.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that 15,000 that you're gonna pull the extra amount from is also BUA?
Correct, that's the UEA arts grants.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Problems?
I looked through the list, I fully support all of the organizations that are listed here, and I'm sure I know you have committee and you do the due diligence in reviewing those applications and so forth. I don't really have any questions.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out to you all is one thing we realized is that $4,000 was never paid out to the Lotus Festival last year as part of their operations grants, and I think basically, I think they just dropped the ball and it fell out of my head and I never followed up from them to get their E-Verify form. That grant period is basically still active. My recommendation is, again, we draw from that $15,000 line in the BUA budget for this year to be able to give them that money. Again, I think that they serve this community in a very good way, and I would like to be able to give that money to them if possible, but again, I will leave that decision to you all.
Yeah, I mean, if they were awarded the money and it just simply didn't, the administrative side of it didn't happen, I don't think that they should be penalized for that. I mean, those things do happen.
And you said they were the ones that noticed this?
Yeah, so basically I reached out to them and was like, this happens every year, you always have to remind people,
Yeah.
especially for the E-Verify, because before this year, you had to have the document notarized and it was just a pain in the butt. So, I followed up with them, was like, hey, just a reminder, you need this, and they didn't respond, and then I think I was like, okay, move it over here.
Yeah, but
What's the crisis?
If I were the.
I know.
I would be like tracking that. So has there been a leadership change or anything?
Last year,
There wasn't a leadership change that I know of. I think there might have been some staff change, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This seems like.
Yeah.
I was surprised too, especially, having,
Table.
having worked with them pretty consistently, it was surprising,
Yeah.
but yeah.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Those things. Okay.
And that was improved in 2025,
That was approved in 2024, correct?
2024.
Yeah, but the grant period goes through the end of 2025.
and for the 2024 balance. For the arts and culture grants, it looks like, and this is from the budget versus balance sheet, it looks like there's about $28,000 of unspent funds, so. There's room in there to cover it.
Okay, so if the grant period ends the end of this month, then this needs to happen. right?
Yeah, yes, that's
So they
correct,
need
yeah.
to receive the money and spend the money.
Right, exactly,
Straight.
and I anticipate that they will be able to do that because the grant was written for this year's Lotus Festival, so
Okay,
I'm
so
sure
they
we'll
can
just kind of
allocate it.
reimburse them for
Got
the
it.
expenses from that festival.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I'm gonna go with that. Any other questions for Holly on the grants? So it looks like it'll end up being a total of 55,483.
Correct,
Is
yes.
that right? Okay. We have a motion to approve,
Motion.
second?
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Share the joy.
And I think we've had Felisa joining us, so we'll need to do around the
room again.
Yeah, roll call. Felisa,
Hi, sorry I'm late, guys. Hi.
that's okay. Do you want to start for the approval of this grant?
Yes, Felicia Spinelli. Yes.
Red Whistler, yes.
Mary Morgan, yes.
Heather Robinson, yes.
Michael Hoover, yes.
Jane Cooper Smith, yes.
Virginia Gethir, yes.
All right, thank you all so much, this goes a long way this year with all the things we're seeing statewide and federally,
Yeah.
so.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right,
now it's budget fun
It's
times.
budget time. Where do you? Do you have a summary?
Yeah, so, if you'll note, I did, send, updated pages today. I received, the financial statements from November. yesterday evening after I met with Heather. And so I updated those numbers, so we have actual numbers as to what our income really was, and that kind of changed things a bit. And then, after meeting with Heather, you can see that the first table is a little bit different. It shows exactly how much is going out without pulling from our cash reserves. So, the proposed budget, totals $696,000, it's $696,503,000. Wow, guys, I was up really late doing this, I'm so sorry. And,
About
the
$697,000.
$697,000. That has us running at a deficit of about $278,000 for the year. If you'll note, in 2025, we were supposed to run at about $176,000 deficit. However, from all of the back pay that we received from Catalent, Novo Nordisk, the total income for 2025 was $834,000. So substantially over what we thought, where we thought we were going to be at the end of 2025. I feel comfortable with running this deficit, and I will show you why in just a moment. We can get into the details, but I want to show you the overview of this because I did update the budget pages. And let's see, I think this is the important one. Sorry, I'm bad at navigation. Let's see if I can make this bigger. So these are the running totals for the past 2023, 2024. We were at a surplus of $175,000 in 2023. Or $170,000 in 2023. We ran a very small deficit in 2024 when everything was all said and done. And as you can see in 2025, we are running way above our expected spend.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The back payment from that particular filer, it goes, what year does it go back to? It was like back to 2023, wasn't it?
So we got payment for 2023, but there was no payment in 2022. Or I'm sorry, no, they were paying all the way up to 2023 and we didn't get payment for 2024. And the numbers for 2023 were off by a few $100,000.
Okay, so the 2023 net income here, positive net income,
Is
the total income is low because it was missing the payment that we received in 2026. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the surplus that we saw in 2025 really kind of would be allocated over 24,
yes.
23.
Yes, because so I can run up to the top of this.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's look at this.
I don't know that I need that many weeds. I just
Sure, it's not a problem. So if you see the zone membership fees right here, we didn't get paid for anything in 2024 and we ran a very, very short deficit.
okay.
We did get paid in 2023, but it wasn't the correct amount.
Okay.
So we running that very short deficit with not being paid. We did a pretty good job of running the numbers and running the money correctly.
And then that 2025 year to date, so then we see an increase in 2025 because that, in spite of other eases rolling off, that filer had additional major investments that they're claiming.
Yes.
And then 2025 reflects back pay, and so
Back pay, I'm sure.
2026 is really just reflecting increased investments at that site.
Yes, that's the projection for that.
Okay, thanks.
And this is all cash basis. Right?
So that's kind of just the basic summary of the deficit that we're looking at running. Getting into the weeds, so expenses. Administrative allocation of $168,000 for management of the BUEA. This includes an increase of professional services and staffing. Insurance, accounting, advertising, marketing, technology resources, and overhead used by city staff. Just for that part, the fees that the BUEA had been paying in the past were not adjusted for COLA, they weren't adjusted for staff increases as far as wage and things like that, so it was time to just update that agreement. So we figured out the numbers for that. We can get into the weeds in that in just a second. And then you all have been so supportive of me over the years and I greatly appreciate it. And I have been talking about adding an additional person to help me out. So I have included $25,000 for an administrative consultant to help me with some of the work that we're doing. So that's administrative and staffing.
And Dee's using the word consultant deliberately because to add a staff position, it would have to go through a full process with city council and an appropriation ordinance to create the position. And we can do that if the board thinks that's necessary. We just can't do that until next fall when we're going through the budget process. So I think Dee's idea is to use this funding to hire someone who can help administratively, but on a consultant basis.
Yeah, and this is a good trial run. So, you know, if this becomes successful and we do want to put it in the 2027 budget, then we have a clear understanding of what that person's role will be and how they can assist. So kind of think of it as consultant pilot sort of situation.
And adding a staff person, I mean, through that process would be more expensive, I assume they would give.
It is,
Yeah.
yes.
This would be a W-9 employee.
This will be like a 1099 W-9 employee.
Okay. Okay. All right, yeah.
Yeah. Moving on, arts and grants education, $93,000 in programming for resident education, expanding K through 12 education support, 56,000 in entrepreneurship for programs and scholarships benefiting business education, technical assistance, and entrepreneurship. About 260,000 for arts and culture initiatives, and that does include the 100,000 that we had allocated for 2025 for the arts incubator, and we'll talk to Holly about that in a little bit. And then zone improvement, I've earmarked 120,000 in grant funding to directly assist small businesses and nonprofits with physical improvements, emergency assistance, financial aid, and an appropriation of $20,000 to sustainability to fund 2 SEAL energy efficient grants, specifically targeting zone residents. This climate and sustainability line had been in the 2025 budget and it went unspent, and now it is officially dedicated to something. And then the one-time expenses of converting around $100,000 of existing loans held since 2020 for the rapid response fund grants. We did talk about the income a little bit before. Like I said, it's about $134,000, and the projected gross income just for 2026 will be around $519,000.
Could you remind us what amount is in our reserves?
We have about 3.4 million.
I was just looking at that on the balance sheet from last month. I was giving that to comment on that too. Let's see, from October, I don't have November.
Did I not send that as well? I'm so sorry. I can
So that
probably zip that to you
is-
real quick.
Almost 3.5 million. In total current assets. Will discharge, well, yeah, it's over it's over 3.5, but we're going to discharge, several of those FFB. So if we just kind of look at like cash and deposits and so forth, 3.49 million, in that range, at least at month end October. So it's a solid amount of reserve.
So that's gonna be decreasing to like roughly what?
Well, if
Those
we
get discharged?
$100,000, it looks like Dee has proposed $100,000, which is included in those total expenses, so the net income, there we go, 277,503 includes that 100,000. So that would essentially, since the operation is on a cash basis, that would technically, if every single thing spent that's been budgeted and every dollar
Mhm.
that you've forecasted.
So that
would be,
It
yeah,
has to come from reserves.
cash. Yeah, I mean, it's all just cash. It's
Yeah.
not technically reserves as far as it's structured. It's just cash that
Okay.
that sits in banks and, you know, there's some CDs or something, so there's when you
Yeah,
have that, but as far, it's just cash that you,
and that wouldn't affect the interest income much at all then? That amount?
not for
Yeah.
that. And although the rate cut, there's another rate cut, so interest is going down, the earnings in general. So if you're in the bond market, think about it. If you really. That's all right.
Guys, on the
Yeah,
side.
sorry, a little, the bonds were great a year ago. Yeah, so we would see a reduction in the cash that's, sitting there. Potentially that, yeah.
But as far as the interest that we're gaining on it, it's still substantial.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it almost makes up for losing the
Mhm.
$100,000, so.
Yeah.
Could you also remind us what percentage of your time is BUEA?
About 40%.
Okay.
I asked Dee to track all the staff hours that go into it, so she looked at, Alex, me, I was pretty nominal. Our administrative coordinator, Susan Coates, I don't know if you all have met her, but she's one of the people that makes it
happen.
Makes it go. And she's awesome. And then Cheryl Gilliland. Right? And Holly, I don't know if Holly was in there, so she, yeah, looked at everyone's labor hours. According to their salary, along with a technology percentage, that came from the ITS department. And calculated that along with the COLA for 2026, so it's a real number. That's there, and then the idea with the support person is just that. Even at her 40%, there is more work to do here to truly market the organization and successfully get the funds out, so. I think there's a lot of work to do on top of that. But we don't wanna pull Dee away completely from the small business work she's doing across the whole community, which is really important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as we get into this administrative stuff, thanks for, going through that, Jane, I appreciate it. And we do have more of a breakdown of that if you'd like to see those individual numbers. So the staff agreement ends up coming out to about $90,000, which is a little less than, or I'm sorry, a little bit less than doubling, of what it was before. I think that when you kind of like look at the Crow study and, you know, how our wages, I mean, we know our wages went up considerably, and so to reflect that and kind of bear some of the cost, it only seemed right. $25,000 for the administrative consultant, dues and subscriptions, we put 2,800 in there, and that is actually talking about the IT costs specifically. So, you know, that's us using DocuSign and Adobe and all the other little things to get this thing going. Looks like our insurance expenses will remain about the same. There was no indication that there would be an increase on accounting and tax services. Project administration has been increased, about $5,000 to, do a thorough, you will see in the packet that there is, some projection in there. For the next, 5 to 10 years, they're pretty rough projections. We'd like to do something in depth, for, a 5-year projection. The $10,000 to support marketing and expanding of programs, of programming, so that's all of our grants, all of our business incentives. And I'm getting, assistance through Ivy Tech, to do that. I mentioned that a couple meetings ago that we had been working on kind of a short-term strategic, plan, for the marketing, so that's where that's happening. Miscellaneous expenses, is exactly what it is. If something pops up that we need to pay for, we're gonna pull it out of that. All right. Any questions about that part?
It might be helpful to leave that on the screen a little longer, just because there's a lot of information
For sure.
that's in there.
And then just projecting out, whenever there's an increase in personnel, like future years, that's a commitment, right? And we're confident that, on the revenue side, we can support that. At least that's what our best guess is now.
That's what our best guess is now. The projections, and I had, Stone Municipal Group help me out with those projections. They helped me out with the ESIDs. Those projections are out to 2033 or 36 or something to that effect. So, actually, let me scroll down to, let me get to those so you can see that chart. Oh, I hate this thing. Sorry. Jane says I'm good at technology, but she's no idea how bad I am at it. So this is probably a good one to look at. Okay.
And this is post SEA one, or?
Yes, this is post SCA one. To cover that super quickly, I make brief mention of it, close to the end of the budget memo. But, most of our income from property tax is coming from real estate property tax, not personal property tax. So the hit that we got from SCA one is not as bad as we thought it might be. It ends up being about $12,000. So not really anything too terrible. So this chart shows the eases that we have right now if we do not add anything. If no additional companies decide to sign on to the participation fee.
So this is just the life cycle of the current visas.
Absolutely.
So that cliff really reflects like if we did nothing.
If we did absolutely nothing,
And our expectation is presumably we will be.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I think there's a huge opportunity in that. Real property, I mean, especially thinking about what's going on in the trades district, you know, buildings going in and then having some tech investments. And then, you know, there's a new development going in adjacent to Novo. Novo continues to grow, so I think it's realistic that revenue would grow. And so it's great that Dee has these projections from Stone, but one of the line items in the 2026 budget is to get
Oh, God.
to get realistic projections of what we can do, what.
That's 30,000.
Right there, yeah.
I
So-
appreciate that. I thought that's what that might be.
Yeah, and so that was a request, just being transparent. Heather and I had a really nice conversation about like, what does the BVA wanna be when it grows up? Like, what's it doing now? Is that sufficient? And what more could it be doing? And is it being strategic? And it was really just, I don't know, just good conversation, but Heather had observed that if we wanna think critically about what we're doing at all, we have to have really good projections for what our revenue is gonna look like. Otherwise, we're just shooting in the dark. So that's kind of what triggered Dee to add that line, I mean, that's how those projections will differ from this.
Yeah, and it's a,
And maybe we'll get some leads out of it too.
yeah, absolutely, and it's a considerable amount of income, even if we don't do it, like, that's a considerable amount of money, so even. Even if 2032 is the drop off, there's still. I mean, we would have to spend a lot of money for us to be defunct by 2036. We'd have to spend it pretty quick, which is not impossible if that's, the way that it looks, but I don't foresee that drop off happening, at least I'm not gonna try not to let it happen, how about that?
That's really good information, Dee. I appreciate seeing that because it does give us an idea. This year we do have a couple of expenses that we, may not, well, for one, the FFB loans, that's a unique situation. I have that. And, the $100,000 for the arts incubator. Don't want to presume, Holly, what you might ask in the future, but that may not be an expense that we would have. So there's a couple $100,000 in there that are kind of special, if you will. But that's still based on those projections. If we were trying to say, net pretty flat, we're still not, with those numbers based on where our expenses are now, we wouldn't quite hit that. But to Jane's point, it sounds like there's opportunity, and with an admin helping support UD, and I hope that too then frees up some of that time for you to seek the additional eases, because it's not like a huge amount in decline. It's not like, oh, we need $300,000-$400,000. Another 150,000 would pretty much net us out in expenses.
Yeah.
So that, something great to see those projections. And then I think, next year will be an important year for us as an organization to kind of see how that goes, how, can the EASES, can we grow that revenue, what it looks like with the support that you have and so forth. So I think that would be a good year for us. And the good news is we do have the cash, we have the cushion to be able to say, okay, it's a year of transition. We recognize it's going to be a negative budget for next year, but we've had, if we look at the 3 years, it was like 500 and did the calculation, some $1,000 that we've added to our, basically to our pot of money. So I think we're fine with that, so.
Okay, moving on to grants, education, well, I made mention, and I made mention of SEA 1 earlier, and unfortunately, our school corporation has been hit, much harder by this, and I do want to thank the board for approving an additional, $25,000 to go to MCCSC, that pushes the grant total to $75,000 for 2026 for their emerging workforce technological education grant, which is great. So what I've done to kind of make that work, I redirected funding from uncategorized grants, which were formerly the DEI training grants. And then unbudgeted grants, to hit that obligation. Look over here. That's the education budget. So to get to that 92.5, the 75,000 for NCCSC, we have $15,000 for resident economic independence scholarship, which is funny because I get a lot of them the fourth quarter of the year. So that number changed a couple times before I sent you the budget. But that money is dedicated, and then Lemonade Day, which is a Holly and I's favorite to participate in and give money to. Does anyone have any questions about the education grants? Oh, and one other thing, this is broken out into education and entrepreneurship. Before there was a combined combined category because we had, SBDC in there. This just kind of cleans it up a little bit, so we know where we're putting those funds directly.
I'm just curious, Andy, on those scholarships and I would always support the $15,000 amount you have in here, but it just doesn't look like those funds are really being tapped at that level or utilized at that level. So knowing that there are other areas maybe where we could always push a little, I mean, I wonder if reducing that by 5 is something that I considered.
I wanna push back on that just a little bit because we're devoting so much money to marketing right now and marketing these programs. I'd like to try and do the 15,000 again this year, and if we see that that's still an issue, then I will definitely take into consideration lowering that.
And I think that's a great use of a consultant.
Yeah.
Time, I think we can do it.
I think so too, and I really, this is why I'm really excited about having a consultant, because like it's not so much that it's not difficult to get the grant together and get all of that stuff together, but it is time consuming because there's checking and making sure that, it's like, okay, well, I need this form now and that sort of thing. So having an additional person to help me get those out, and the sooner somebody gets one, the sooner they're gonna start talking about it, and I need people to start getting them and talking about them, because that's how I get rid of them.
Maybe a neighborhood, like if your time is freed up from pushing paper, you can do things like go to the neighborhood associations and talk about the programs. I think it's hard for people to understand the footprint and what it means and what they can get out of it, so.
Yeah, absolutely, so.
All right, and when you say that's I'm sorry, Virginia, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't have anything.
Oh,
Thank you.
Is that the same for the business economic enhancement scholarships there too? So you're.
Yes.
Both of those you would put into that same space?
Yeah, I would
promote more.
I really wanna push the scholarships more, the individual scholarships more this year. I think that's a very reasonable goal with some additional help.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, those are, yeah, love to see all of those grants.
Yeah, and I would, now that we have deployed a fair number of staff on diversion and prevention, I think that the clients they're working with would be great candidates.
Oh,
for some
yeah.
of these, so I'd love to just help push that out, get
Yeah.
that information out.
That's great.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
All right, moving on to entrepreneurship.
I'm gonna have to leave at 1, I'm really sorry, but I think you have a quorum. with
Yes, because
Felisa.
Elise is here,
Okay.
so we are good if you do need to go. Our budget commitments to entrepreneurship, directly support an average around, 50 zone residents through an annual allocation of $45,000. And I didn't finish that statement, I'm so sorry, that goes to Cook Center. Cook Center Ivy Tech has been, invaluable resource. I think I probably talk to Steve at least 4 or 5 times a month, directing people to him, and they keep great records of who's in the zone and how they're assisting them. And so we can get some good data from about our residents and our entrepreneurs in the zone. The 2024 and 2025 Cook funds were spent in 2025, so the expenditure there for the grants is a little bit higher than annually. So it ends up being we missed the payment in 2024, so we paid them for both 2024 and 2025 this year, which is why that line is high. So. However, we have allocated the $45,000 for next year as well. Additionally, some of that marketing work and consultant work to get scholarships out there, and all of that is going to be wrapped up into the 2026 agreement with Cook and Ivy Tech. They've been great partners to us, or we've been great partners to them, and they would like to return the favor. So, that we'll be incorporating that into the proposal for next year, so that $45,000 will, directly help the BVA as well. We talked a little bit about the business enhancement scholarship, for, economic development courses, business workshops, and professional organizational membership dues or conference registration. I didn't use a lot of these this year. I think I had more last year. I really like this scholarship and I would love to give out so many more. That allocation for this year is $10,000. And then, the, zone day passes, we actually have been having people use them, and I completely forgot to ask Victoria before I left the mill today how many had been utilized. I do think that these are great, and I think that marketing these is going to help us a lot. This is only about 50 passes for the year. The membership is quite expensive, and a day pass is kind of costly, but I think that it's a good resource if we can push this out. Maybe even potentially doing a combination with the scholarships that we have.
Yeah, and unpacking that a little more, this program is really important for helping entrepreneurs have a sense of belonging. So entrepreneurship can be a lonely activity, or starting up a nonprofit can be a lonely activity. And so having access to a place like the mill, I don't know, beats down any kind of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
People, community, adds to the resources, so.
Yeah,
I would also say, I mean, I think it's a great deal, like, even at the full membership. I know it's not accessible for everybody, but for, 205 for a month. It's better than having your own office.
yeah, it's cheaper than renting an office space
Yeah,
out for sure. But Victoria and I are working to try and do some more Main Street small business owner kind of things there. I know that Victoria Crowley, the head of operations, if you've not met her, she's fantastic. And really trying to get non-tech small businesses. Non-tech small businesses to, feel like they can be there, because I think that the misconception of the mill is that it's only for tech. And that's.
They do have a bro culture.
They need to bring the big culture. They need to bring up that culture, because, this is a space that we want all kinds of people to come to the trades.
We're doing our part by trying to get people to stop taking meetings in the mother's nursing room.
Yeah.
Victoria's all over that.
Wow. Whoa.
Question, do you have any evidence of people who have been awarded the day pass to then get a membership? I don't have any,
I need to talk to Victoria about that.
because that would be interesting, maybe, I think.
Yeah, and right now there's no limit on how many day passes you can get for the year, because we haven't expended all of them.
Yeah.
At least since I've been here. I think that Victoria's good about keeping her eyes open about that stuff.
Okay.
We'll see how that pans out, but I'm excited to have some marketing behind it and pushing it on socials and things like that, and just. I'm really excited to have Ivy Tech help me out with that stuff, because it's very hard to promote a nonprofit and then also do a full-time job, which I'm sure some of you in this room have actually done. And then, let's see, what else?
I just want to take a quick pulse, Dee, because I know we've scheduled this meeting to 1:30, but I just want to make sure we're not going to lose anybody.
Yeah, is everybody good?
Is everyone good?
Good until 1:30.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Let's try it. Let's shoot for 1:15, 1:20 here.
Okay, sounds good. Where's Holly? She just left her marker.
Yeah, she's on a call.
Okay.
We can always jump ahead if
For
she's.
sure, absolutely. So the zone improvement grants, I am really glad that the board has taken on these grants and really supports them. These are like the first grants, the first programming that I ever created when I started here at the city. So I'm glad that we're utilizing them. We'll zip down to here. I did do a little bit of a decrease on these, this year. Let's see, it was, $5,000 out of the accessibility modification. We haven't utilized that a lot, however, those modifications do tend to be pretty expensive. I didn't want to decrease it too much, just because I was just trying to cut some corners, because I saw that, bottom number in deficit and was trying to do my best to not make it any worse, I guess. So $5,000 out of there, I added $10,000 to the business building improvement. We have gone about $16,000 over budget this year for that. Which I think is great. Happy to add some money to that. The safety and security grant, we did not expend all those funds. So I dropped it by about 5,000. So the 5 from the accessibility and the 5 from the small business safety and security were put into the business building improvement line. The $20,000 for the SEAL Energy Efficiency Grant Program, which was the sustainability kind of ambiguous line from last year. And then the direct assistance, small business and community support, I did decrease that by $15,000. And this, honestly, this is mainly because I don't have enough hands to run another micro grant program of $25,000. I think $10,000 is manageable for me at this point in time. We'll see how that changes with some assistance. But I thought that just to make sure that I'm getting them out to people in a reasonable amount of time.
So you think the SIL funds, because we've had the 20, well, let's see, I'm trying to figure the years here. So it didn't happen in 2025, we didn't have it budgeted before that, or if it did, it just, none of those funds were spent.
We did not have it budgeted
Okay.
before then.
So you think that in 2026, there's likelihood that this will?
So, this is gonna be administered by sustainability.
Okay.
So that is 2 grants. They are super stoked that they can
Okay.
have $20,000.
So those are actually going to be put out, they can
Yes.
have applicants for, and
Yes.
you expect that to be spent.
They expended all of their funds for that program this year, so to have an extra $20,000, they were pretty excited.
Who's the staff there now?
That is Sean Mia and Jolie Perry. So, and some really very talented O'Neill fellows, so they have fantastic people. You wanna talk about art?
At the top, sorry. Actually, time that conversation.
Well done, you saw just talking about art.
Okay. Do you want me to talk about all of the budget categories under arts?
Yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna let you talk.
Okay.
About that.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for continuing to support the arts. It means a lot, especially now. We've got just a few different categories of spending that we'd like to propose for 2026. So again, we'd like to recommend an allocation of $50,000 to the Bloomington Arts Commission's 2 grant cycles. Even though we kind of went over our budget this year, I don't recommend necessarily increasing that budget for 26, because the fact is there are only so many groups that apply within the BUEA, and so I wouldn't want to accidentally allocate $60,000 and we only end up spending $48,000. It could happen next year. So there's that $50,000, and then I'd like to continue to allocate $40,000 to just city identified arts and culture expenses, and so that would give us, I'd like to continue to give Constellation Stage and Screen, who runs the Waldron Arts Center, a $25,000 operations grant again next year. And that's basically, I think what we've learned since we struck that deal with Constellation Stage and Screen in 2023. Running a facility is hard, especially if you are a theater group who doesn't have knowledge of how to run a visual arts gallery, which they have done a magnificent job doing, and your building is over 100 years old. So I'd like to allocate of that 40,000 of discretionary spending, 25,000 to Constellation Stage and Screen, and then I'd like just to keep that $15,000 as open discretionary spending if like we did this year, we go over a little in our grant allocation. And then the other field is that $100,000 that you graciously awarded us for 2025 to spend on our arts incubator. So as a reminder, we partnered with Secret Lease Group to manage 10,000 square feet of their warehouse down on the Beeline. We have a great space where we're going to do artist studios. So you gave us that money at the end of 2024. We have not spent it yet, and I'm going to explain why. When we asked for this money, we were in the process of applying for a Ready 2.0 arts and culture grant. So when Ready released its 2.0 grant funds, the Lily kicked in $65 million to give to cultural arts and culture sticks and bricks entities basically. And we had done a feasibility study in 22 that said you guys need artist studios, so we were getting support there. ROI, Regional Opportunities Initiative, who is facilitating the $65 million in grants through the IEDC, who is giving the money, strongly encouraged us to apply. So at the end of last year, we started applying and we knew we needed matching funds. And so that's when we came to the BUEA and asked for those matching funds. We submitted the application at the end of 25 and were given like a lot of hope that we were going to be a successful applicant. So we were very excited that we already had the space rented. We were letting artists use it for larger scale projects. And then the Ready 2.0 folks just kind of pumped the brakes. Nothing bad happened. Basically, what they realized is the IEDC just does not have experience awarding arts and culture grants. And they wanted to make sure that they were giving these funds out in just the most useful way possible. So they stopped the application process and they hired a like arts and culture consultant for each of the regions in Indiana to do a cultural plan to identify the biggest needs in each region. We're part of the Uplands region. So IEDC would have a good idea of what kind of projects they should be looking for funding going forward. I was made a member of the steering committee for the consulting group that we were assigned for that project. And they are wrapping their draft of their plan now for our region. The top thing they have listed as a need is artist studio space. So I'm very happy. So again, basically, once this report is put out into the public, the IEDC will then reopen their application portal. We'll all reapply in Q1, and then we will hopefully get funds. But because there was just this question about are we gonna end up being a viable candidate? There was a lot of confusion once they paused the project of like, what's gonna happen? I was really nervous about spending $100,000 on anything that we might just have to give back at the end of 26. So we kind of slowed down our initiatives to do things like put in an ADA accessible entrance or install HVAC or do a lot of programming in this space. But now that we're getting really good indications again that we're going to receive the funds, I'm like, okay, let's do this. So we now are in the process of working with someone to install an ADA ramp, and we're also looking for someone to help us with the HVAC. We also earlier, well, I guess at the end of last month, we moved in our like Frontiers artist cohort who are now working in the studio. So we have 8 early career artists and 2 mid-career artists who are kind of acting as their mentors, and they're in the space and they're working in the space. And we're also doing professional development workshops with them. They will continue in this space until the end of 2026. So with all this momentum and having renewed confidence that we will have the ability to really blow this space out, probably beginning in the middle of 26. I'd like to ask for the ability to keep that $100,000 for our 26 budget to pay for things like ADA ramp, professional development, and other build out of the space.
Is this, it seems focused on visual arts?
We're still trying to determine whether or not we want to do like music and other types of arts. We definitely want it to be a multimedia space, but I think we're realizing a couple of things, like while we're working in this space. Number one, sound travels. And so we just wanted to be respectful of
And there's a lot
artists
of
to be
cement in
quiet,
there.
right, yeah, and the other thing is I've realized since we've like been like just kind of building theoretical plans of the space out, 10,000 square feet goes really, really fast. And so we're kind of realizing that this might not be the space for like a performance
Performance
venue,
or
something that might have like
theater
sound and
or
everything,
something.
correct. And so we're actually, as we're learning more about what these funds are going to be available for in the new year, we're thinking maybe this space should be all visual arts, like visual arts film medium, of course, but maybe we should be putting like sonic things or like an all-ages performance venue. Maybe we should be working with another entity to put a grant application to Ready 2.0 available for that. Like, definitely, I would see this incubator space, if we were to choose to only do this space for visual arts, I would still be looking for opportunities to expand, to have other sites. I think we could consider ways we could access Ready 2.0 money to do that in the future.
Okay, thanks.
The other like historic facade grant, which every year I say I'm gonna move it into building improvement, so I'm just gonna do that right now, guys.
It's funny, Dee, I was just thinking, I think that just goes under there.
Yeah.
I think it just goes into
Put that guy there.
Yeah, I think that,
That changes the numbers in the memo a little bit, and I'll
yeah,
amend
no,
that.
but I think that makes sense to put it there. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm sitting here thinking, we did just approve a $40,000 grant for the church. And because of how I know the timing of this works and you're operating on a cash basis here, that $40,000 is going to hit in 26.
Right.
So knowing that, we have a $50,000 budget, but technically we would have a $10,000 balance. So I might propose that we increase the budget of that line item. I know that will increase the bottom line deficit for next year. But I think otherwise we will find potentially that we'll run out of money for that line pretty quickly. So I just kind of throw that out there for other people's thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Thoughts about increasing it by the full 40? Because to honor them, what Dee is proposing here, 50,000 next year, or what's the appetite for the increase? Because, for every amount we add there, it does raise the deficit at the bottom. So just.
Yeah. We've got $10,000 left over, so really it's a $30,000 increase
Well,
to get it
funded. Yes,
based off this budget.
actually it'd be 40. If we put the full 40 in there, it would increase the bottom line by 40.
Yeah,
So the
'cause-
budget would go from 50 to 90.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big budget. So we would know though that we just approved something that's going to hit next year. So instead of having a variance in the budget, we're just gonna say we've increased this budget because of what we already know. But again, that grows our deficit at the bottom by 40,000. So just, so then we're over 300,000.
Yeah,
So
we can look that up, come on.
So
Yeah,
welcome feedback on what others are thinking about that.
So that makes it 317,
Yeah,
318.
yeah,
I think it makes sense. I don't have any opposition to that.
in the scope of things, the deficit based on the cash that is available right now isn't an issue. If we're running deficits for multiple years, it would become an issue. So because of the net income we've gained is just this year alone, you're projecting 400, am I looking at the right line? Yeah, 428,000. So it won't even eat up basically what the surplus from this year. So again, just knowing that it is a deficit with the net of the past 3 years positive. Is it something that the board feels comfortable? Otherwise, then we have $10,000 for facade grant,
Yeah, that's a perfect.
increasing it to the full 40,000, okay? Other thoughts? Anyone?
No, I mean, sitting where we are with our cash reserves, I see no reason not to increase that, especially knowing what our. Profit is going to be this next year.
And I think also because it's utilized,
Right.
like if it were something
Yeah.
that wasn't used, you'd have to try to find money anyway, so I
Yeah.
think.
And Noah's doing a really great job of referring people and getting them through HPC, to get their projects approved, so. Actually, there was one that he sent me for this meeting, but since we were doing budget, I was like, that's gonna have to wait until the first quarter
Right.
next year. So yeah.
And I think this just really touches on like the physical beauty improvement of the buildings downtown, like that box construction site there on Fourth Street. That building looks beautiful now. It looks really great. So it really enhances the beauty of our downtown too, while respecting the historic nature of many of the buildings we have. So,
We've had many facade grants this last year, seems to be one of our most popular, so I don't see why not.
Yeah.
okay. All right, so.
Okay, so, we've been through arts, we talked about zone improvement, and we can talk a little bit more about the, RF loans. I mean, you guys have approved this, we've gone through this quite a bit. After looking at what we have left, as far as outstanding loan principal, it's around 99,900 and something, so I just said $100,000 to take care of the loan principal. When you do factor in everything, it ends up being around $128,000, when we're talking about late fees, all interest, all of that. After Heather and I had a discussion about it, you know, when I figured up the grand totals, I was factoring in every single payment from every single loan that we hold. However, some of those businesses have dissolved. We're just waiting for paperwork from them to say, hey, we're not here. So that extra $29,000 is some of that. Once again, not every single business that applies will be eligible for the conversion, so there may be some leftover that we'll still be dealing with. That's it's probably a broader discussion as to what we do with the outstanding loans. Because they are supposed to be paid off mid-2026. So we'll have to have a discussion as to what to do with those outstanding ones, so I'm really trying to push everyone to at least apply. So we don't really have to take any further action on anything that's outstanding. And then we've discussed the income, we kind of hit that first on, so in summary, the 2025 year-to-date income will be $834,000. Expenditures of around 405, well, it's changed now that we put that in, so it's more like $450,000. With a positive balance of more than that. We're projecting an income of $519,000, expenditures of 100, it's probably gonna be more like 700.
Yeah.
And $30,000, somewhere around there, and then the loan conversion allocation.
Yeah.
And so our deficit's gonna be more like around 300.
Yeah, go back down to that chart, B.
For sure.
Yeah, just so we can visually see it. Thank you.
Yeah.
There we go. So since we've added the facade increase, the grant increase there, I think that gives us a clear picture then of where we'll be. And to your point, the RF loan may not be the full 100, but I appreciate that it's the possibility that if every single loan was converted to a grant, this is what it would be. That's what we'd like to plan for, should that be the case, so. Awesome. I know I said we've got 1 minute, I'm sorry, I'm 20, 1 minute. No, I don't want to rush anything. Dee, awesome job in
Yeah.
putting together this budget.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for all your thoughtfulness in putting it together and putting the additional years in there. It's very helpful and information. And the charts that you've gathered about the ease of revenue over the next few years, I think all of that's really fantastic and helpful information. So are there any questions, comments, or anything else
Do we
on?
need to vote to approve the budget?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So before we get to
You guys are
that.
so eager, I'm so, like, I already have, if you look at the draft calendar, I already have possible budget second reading, like.
Unless there's some serious last 11th hour, we are going to approve this budget today. If there are no other comments or questions or anything on it, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2026 budget with the adjustment that was shown on the screen of adding the additional $40,000 to the facade grant line item.
I motion.
Do we have a second? Second, all right, and then we'll need to do a roll call. Felisa, do you want to lead us off?
Felisa Spinelli, yes.
Brad,
Brad Whistler, yes.
Mary Morgan, yes.
Heather Robinson, yes.
Michael Hover, yes.
Virginia Gatheri, yes.
All right, the budget.
Thank you so much. That's great.
I think what's gonna happen.
It's gonna be a second reading. I feel like there's, well, and there were some like last minute, like,
That's all.
things that
part of-
happened,
Also
so.
dedicating 30 minutes to making sure we have time to go through the
Yes.
budget clearly
Yeah.
was a very good idea.
Yes,
For sure.
I would recommend this in the future.
I actually have put that into the calendar, so that was like the last order of business is the draft calendar. All I wanted to say about that was, take a look at it. If you think that there are things that we should add or things you would like to see, let me know. There's like notes, staff, board and presentation, so. Have at it, I'm slowly filling it in and I will send another draft before our first meeting in January.
Oh, boy.
All right,
Yeah. Thank you
Thanks
so
for meeting.
much.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye.
Bye.